And there's so many videos and so many books and so many things about the wealthy person that never spent any money. It's not wealth if you've never spent it. It's merely unrealized potential that went to someone else, possibly a bunch to the government, and possibly just to be blown by kids that didn't ever understand anything because they didn't have the experiences.
You're listening to ChiroCandy, the podcast of sweet chiropractic success. Now, here's your host, Billy Sticker.
Welcome to another episode of the ChiroCandy podcast. Today we have Garrett Gunderson. Garrett, thanks for joining.
Hey, man, it's good to see you again. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome watching your journey from the first time we met way back in the day in Houston till now.
Yeah,
you've done quite a few things, man.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit. Well, so have you. I mean, I haven't done any comedy specials, and I've written a couple of books. I don't know if it's as many as you have, but
you've written books. That's the key. I love it. I think it's great. And it's pretty fascinating to see everything that you've been up to, what you've been able to accomplish.
Well, I appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about you and kind of your background in just financial services, if you will, and then what got you started working with chiropractors in general.
Yeah, in June of '98, I started in finance. And then I got introduced. This guy, Joe Polish, calls me. He's like, hey, there's this guy, Patrick Gentempo, who's in Park City. You need to come up and see him. You guys have hit it off. So my wife and I went to Park City and hit it off with Patrick and Lori. I said, hey, man, I have a radio show. You should come on it. So I brought him on the radio show and had him on. He's like, hey, I have this thing called On Purpose. You should be on it. So I went on, and all of a sudden after I did that, we just had these chiropractors calling the office, and like wanting to work with us. Because his wife, I remember, she's like, dude, I have goosebumps. It's like, what you talk about finance is what we talk about in health. Why aren't you working with more chiropractors? Like, I don't know. I mean, I was under chiropractic care because of Craig Bueller, who's a phenomenal chiropractor that I'd been seeing and had helped me. And I'm actually having an appointment with him next week. So he's just an awesome guy. And so it just was like such a fit. But at the same time, our son was going through a lot of issues. And when we went to Total Solutions, a bunch of people there were like, hey, I think we can help. And they did. They tracked down a good chiropractor for him here. We ended up going to Boston for this thing called Brain Camp, and it totally transformed my son's life from being nonverbal in fifth grade for the most part to being 100% just a normal, happy, great kid. And so we definitely have a story in the profession because of that. I mean, there's so many chiropractors along the way that helped and served him.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the profession, and I don't know what you know about my story, and we won't get into it too much. Just back in 07 and 08, I worked in office for a chiropractor. We had multiple locations. I was the marketer, was really good at it. I fell in love with the profession. We doubled the volume in both practices, but I was seeing all of this life change. Mm-hmm. And my heart was, why don't more people know about this? It's not just neck pain and back pain. It's so much more. And so that's kind of the beginning, of my journey. So I think it's great that, we both see the value and love the profession so much. But what is it about finance that you think so many of these chiropractors are missing the boat?
Well, they're accidental tourists in the business world. They want to heal and help people. And so there's three major factors that happen. Number one is they're not financially fit because they don't have the financial house in order, because they just go, I just don't have the time. I'm busy. I'm just trying to make more money. The second thing is most of them aren't financially independent, which is they don't have assets that create cash flow to cover their expenses. And the third thing is just the mindset. There's a lot of scarcity. There's a lot of fear. And when someone's financially free, money's not the primary reason or excuse they would do or not do something. It's a consideration, but it's no longer the consideration. So they come from a more abundant place, which allows them to serve and allows them to help heal people and help, just be present in the moment. And so fit, independent, and free is really the mantra that I have for chiropractors, because if they could have that, then they can swing for the fences in everything they do. They can have a bigger vision of how they can help and heal their communities. They don't have to feel that stress of like payroll and, what they're going to do to grow their business properly, or even allocating money towards marketing, which you help them with. It's just a whole different world when they can show up the best version of themselves. And when people are in fear and worry about money, they don't show up helping people heal at the highest level, because their energy is zapped. The stress is there. And so I want to help them make money an asset and an ally instead of an enemy. I want it to be a tailwind that moves them forward and helps them to hire and build infrastructure and take some trips along the way and enjoy their life today, not just when they retire, but along the way.
Yeah, very good. What are some of those things that you help with, though? Like practically, can we get into that just a little bit?
Yeah, the first thing we always look at is, do they have the right corporate structure? Because if they don't, they might have unlimited liability and they're likely to overpay tax. That's the second thing we go. Are they overpaying tax? And what are the tax strategies they could implement to help them keep way more of what they make? And then the next thing we look at is their asset protection. If they design that properly to preserve and protect and perpetuate their wealth. And then we look at like everything from cash flow and how they structure loans and how that's worked the margin in their business. So we're looking at the four main areas that people leak money, and that's IRS, interest, investments, and insurance. And we're saying, where can we find that money and put it back into their life, back into their practice, back into their quality of life? And so we do a discovery session for that. And then we do a report of findings. The report of findings is a comprehensive report that says, here's everything going on in your life. Here's where you haven't transferred risk. Here's where you're inefficient with your money. Here's where you're financially stressed and the things you do to improve that. Here's the different ways to structure your loans so that you keep more of the money you make. So we're efficiency experts first and foremost.
Yep. We're going to edit this. I think this is good information. I don't know. I'm not feeling good about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I do want to use this. Are you cool, like talking about your family more and just
Sure.
okay?
100%.
Yeah, we'll probably do that, and then kind of come back into the business.
Okay, let's do that.
The business part. Okay. All right, well, good. I'll have my team just go through and edit this.
Sweet.
So let's talk a little bit about family. I know you're talking about your son. How many kids do you guys have?
We have two kids, a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old. And 17 is going to be 18 any day now, in November. So that's pretty crazy. And I'm going to take my 20-year-old hunting for the first time this Sunday. He's never even killed a bug in his life. So we're going to see how this goes.
Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, that's fun. It's, I feel young to have, all my kids be adults. We have a 28-year-old, a 23-year-old, she's almost 24, and then a 19-year-old. And it's crazy. And, now I look back and I'm glad we had kids when we were younger, because now, I still feel young and we have grandkids and another one on the way.
That's awesome.
And it's amazing.
How many grandkids do you have?
We have two. My oldest son has a 4-year-old and then one that's almost 2. So a boy and a girl. And then I've got another grandson that'll be here in January. So it's incredible. And I have to say this. We've all heard the saying that, if people knew how great grandkids were, they would have had them first.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
My mom always says that.
Yeah, I really think what it is whenever you're going through the parenting phase, everything is important. Everything's a big deal. And then next thing you know, they're grown. It's kind of like where we are now, right? The two of us.
Fast, right? Everybody tells you it happens fast, and then it happens fast.
And you're like, oh my goodness, what happened? And then so the second time around, if you will, with our grandkids, you just
appreciate it.
Cherish it. You really just say, this is, let them be kids.
I've seen so many of our clients will have like kids that are 18 and 20, and then they have a caboose baby that's 2 all the time, unplanned, but they're like, it's a totally different experience. The older kids are kind of enjoying it, and they're just more present with them. And I look back, if I'm like, what would I change about my 20s? I'd be more present. I was just always in the hustle. I was always, what's next? How could I do more? And my wife hit me one day and she's like, I feel like I'm a single mom. I feel like I go to everything on my own. I had no parameters, no boundaries. Now it's like, okay, I'll speak twice a month. And thank God for things like this where I could just do it from the comfort of my home, right? Yeah. And so like creating those boundaries changed everything. I'd be like, all right, if I'm gone for more than 4 nights in a month, I'm taking a day off during the week. She's like, that'd be amazing. Right. And I was like, let's always have a trip as a family on the books we can look forward to, because then we can start to experience that even before it happens. She's like, amazing. I was like, why don't I just only work late 1 night a week And then all the other nights, I'll be done by 5. And guess what? I got more strategic. I got more productive. I learned how to delegate. Before, I didn't think it was possible because of my own fickle, feeble, scarcity mind. And thanks to her pushback. And then she's like, is this what you want? You know, and there's this lie a lot of us entrepreneurs tell, which is like, hey, I'm doing this for you. She's like, well, I didn't sign up for this. I wanted you. I didn't ask, like, whatever you're trying to fill with money in this void, like, let's figure that out. Because she's like, I don't care about going on vacation by myself. I want to be with you. And if we're on vacation and you're not there mentally, what good is that? You know? So we just carve out little time in the day, like little coffee and conversations to start our morning. Vision and visit at night, either in the sauna or the hot tub. And like, where are we going? What are we excited about? What do we need to work on? You know, like we're now doing Sunday morning brunch with our kids because they're at their age. It's hard to get them to sit down to dinner each night. But we're like, let's just commit to once a week. And then, you know, just last night, my son just came up and watched some TV with us. And my wife stayed up for hours because she could talk to him. She's like, you just never know when that could happen. Now, Billy, I went to sleep. I got to get my sleep. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay up as late as her. But yeah, that's part of wealth, is just being able to be present. And, you know, I just didn't know how to do that.
You know, I went through the same thing whenever we were starting ChiroCandy, especially working from home. You know, I would, you know, now I have my desktop computers and everything and a couple of monitors. And, but I remember I'd have my laptop open and it'd be 11 o'clock at night. But it's like, as long as the computer's open, there are things that need to be done. And I remember my wife would come in. She's like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm just working. I'm, you know, doing whatever it was. And she would just put her fingers on the top of the computer and just close it. Just like, it'll be there tomorrow. You know, it's not brain surgery. Like, there's nothing you're doing right now that's that important. You know, and sometimes, you know, she's probably not going to listen to this episode, so I can say this. Sometimes she would close the computer and look at me and wink. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Good to go.
Yeah. But sometimes it was just like, hey, focus. I need you here. And one of the things that we started doing, isn't really about the kids. It's about now that we're not necessarily empty nesters because our 19-year-old still lives here. But we do most Wednesdays, or Rusty Wednesdays. That's my wife's name. And like whatever she wants to do. Now, sometimes we still work. We may go to a coffee shop and work together, but it's time we just dedicate. You know,
nice.
I might be getting my nails done on Wednesdays, but it's just time we carve out for us. We still do a lot of trips together. It's something like last week I had 2 different conferences I went to, and she's like, you know what? I want to go. And so we go to the conferences, and I was like, look, you can like participate. You can come in. And she said, well, no, I don't want to do that. And she was there for a few days, and then she's like, I'm gonna go home early, because she wasn't participating, and she was kind of. But she goes, I want to be with you, and I love the fact we've been married almost 30 years, and she is my best friend. Like, nice. I want to spend time with her. I want to do that. In the kids, so from having a comedian background, Nate Ragazzi.
Love Nate. He's great.
He's great. Have you heard the bit he does about the kids, you know, or his siblings, how they had different parents? I don't know if you've heard that bit. So. Yeah. Which is very,
especially like for the grandkids, they're totally different.
No. Like his, you know, how he was the oldest, and this was true in my family. Like when my oldest son was born,
super strict and
well, no, strict, and we didn't have any money, you know. Yeah. But he got different parents. Well, now we're in a different situation, and now we have a bigger house. We have more vehicles. You know, he has a nicer vehicle. We've got just the backyard resort and all this stuff. And my 19-year-old's like, I'm not getting married anytime soon. I'm not like and so the siblings
living pretty comfortable right now.
It's like, that's not the same parents we grew up with. Right. So some of that is, you know, we're at a different stage in life, but some of that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When you have your first kids, like the whole pacifier, you know, you drop a pacifier with your first one, you throw it away, you know? Yeah. And then the second one, you wipe it off a little bit. The third one, you
just put it right back in their mouth.
They're fine. They're fine. But yeah, I love the idea of, you know, just being present with your family. And my brother is an engineer, and he's been recruited a few different times to go to these different firms. And And the great thing about that is he's got some negotiating power, so I don't need a new job. And one time they went up pretty high on his salary, then they kept that off, and he's like, okay, well, hang on. Now let's talk about vacation time. And he got them to give him, I think it was almost 6 weeks paid vacation. And then later the next year, so he ended up taking the job. And later the next year, I was like, hey, have you been using, your vacation time? Because he's got 4 kids. He said, no. I said, man, there's too much stuff to do at work. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? You work for your family. Like your work's going to be there. Your kids aren't. I'm telling you, you're going to turn around and they're going to be gone. Take the vacation.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what changed our life was in 2016 or 15, my wife goes, why don't we spend the summer in Italy? And I was like, man, I have a business. Like, that scared me when she first said it. Like, it triggered, like, I could still feel it in my gut right now. And I was like, okay. So I went to my firm. I was like, hey, the summer of 2017, I want to go to Italy. So we need to build this where we can, my kids will be old enough that they can remember the trip. I just want to and man, it changed our lives so much because we go on the trip. There's no agenda. We swim in the pool. We play cards. We have a meal. We start drinking cappuccino. It was just, and the day that we got to the villa, the trees are lined in the street and they touch at the top. So it's like you're in a tree tunnel, and then you pull up to the gates and they open up and we pop some champagne and we're in the pool, and it's like a fairy tale. And it took me about 2.5 weeks to just get fully to the place where I was just wake up, didn't feel like I needed to do anything, could take it easy, could be totally cool with that leisure, felt like it was a worthwhile activity, go up and have a 4-hour dinner. And it was just so much time consecutively with my family, and it changed us forever. It just totally made the business mature and grow because I wasn't there every day. And so they had to figure things out without me. And we made as much money that year than I made any previous year. So it didn't actually slow the business down. That was the crazy thing. And I was nervous the whole time leading up to the trip. Can I do this?
Why do you think in a lot of the European countries, it is a more especially Italy, it's a more laid back lifestyle compared to here? Why do you think that is?
I mean, you look at just the values as a country, you look at I didn't know a lot about quality of life till I spent that summer in Italy. And then I was like, oh, I'd never drank coffee. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's a satiating experience to sit down for 30 minutes and have a cup of coffee with someone. And so it's just, we are kind of hey, we're the innovators, and we're the biggest
grinders,
consumers and producers and drivers and inventors. And we could even think it might be that the people that were crazy enough to come to America had to be nuts. They had to be like, we want to do something special. They came to do tobacco at first, right? In a place that was pretty unfiltered and uncharted and pretty dangerous. And I mean, they had to fight Britain. I mean, you had to be kind of crazy. So there's some of that in our DNA, that the immigrants that came over were like, I want to provide a better life. And they were willing to do whatever it took to get there. So there's some of that. And then there's just a cultural piece of that too, that we want to be first to market, the market leader. We're the best. It's part of the vernacular we learned from the time we're kids. It's almost indoctrinated in our mind.
Yeah, we've been several times now, and I love it over there. I love the history. One of my favorite places is Edinburgh, Scotland. And
yeah, I took my dad there once.
Oh, it's crazy. They've got the Royal Mile, and then a couple of blocks over, they have I think they call it their new town. And their new town was built in the early 1700s. Their new town is older than America. So I love the history, but even we've been to Italy several times. It's just so different. The hours that the shops keep. And so
you got the nap in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, yep. Just taking it easy. So I think there is something to be said for that. I also do some business coaching, and I had a pastor come and speak to our group. He speaks to a lot of entrepreneurs, and he said, as Christian business owners, a lot of us have learned to trust God with our tithe, but we haven't learned to trust God with our Sabbath. And that planted. And I was like, how good is that? And sometimes we have this mentality that, well, yeah, God took a whole day off, but he doesn't live in America. He doesn't have to grind like we do. He did, and so that's been something I've really been working on. And whenever we go out of town and take trips, I do take those days, and but really just being able to unplug, decompress, be present, and just enjoy. We're very fortunate. Our family all lives pretty close. Last night, for example, we had my daughter and her husband. They just got back from Colorado. His family's from there, so they work for us and they get to travel a lot. But they'd been gone for several weeks, so they just got home. So they came over. It's cooler weather now. We cooked a big gumbo. So we had the whole family together last night, and we weren't celebrating anything other than just, hey, they're back in town. Let's, we hadn't seen everybody in a couple of weeks. Yep. And it's great. It's great being able to have that family time. I don't know how you are with your parents. Both of my parents have already passed away. My mom died at 57. My dad died at 72 just a couple of years ago. And it's precious.
And my parents are both alive. We just last week, my niece turned 5 and we went to Disney with her. And so my parents walked all day. They didn't get in the scooters, at 72 years old. They walked the whole park. We watched my niece just go nuts, being so excited and come up and hug us and walk and hit all the rides. Like it was special to go and be able to experience those moments. And it's cool that I take my dad bow hunting. And so he walked 30 miles this year at 72 years old up in the mountains, stays in shape year round. And we live close to our family. My sisters live close by. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law live close by. My father-in-law and mother-in-law are both alive. We're watching their dog right now because they're off in Boston, going through the history stuff out there. So I feel that that's one of the areas I'm most blessed, is that I have so many people I love and I'm close to in my family that I could just drive and see within 30 minutes. And we just hosted a big party on Sunday where we had all of our family over and a bunch of friends as well. And my wife made chili, and we, it was just a great time. It was just great to see everybody.
Yeah, I think it's great. And, those listening, obviously, they typically tune in because they want to get marketing advice. They want to get some business advice. But the reason you do business is for this, right? It is to be able to.
If you remember that, people forget that, right? People forget that. And it's sometimes hard just to remember, like, hey, always, like, I love that. Have a trip on the books to look forward to at all times. That's always served me. We're going to New York, and it's going to be over Thanksgiving, and when they light the Rockefeller tree, we're excited for that. We're going to go see some plays. We're going to meet up with some friends and have some dinners. We're going to, we're going to go to some museums, and it's just time that we get together uninterrupted as a family, where I usually get to have deeper conversation with my kids. We just get to have good dinners. It's like, I look forward to that. And if you don't have the money to do it, you do locally. It doesn't have to be that elaborate.
It doesn't have to, travel doesn't have to be expensive. So my wife was a home health nurse, and she came home one day, and she actually specialized in like wound care, was kind of her niche. She did a lot of post-op wound care stuff she would do. And she came home one day and she's like, Billy, let's talk. And it was one of those things where I'm like, that's, I don't know. I didn't know where she was going with this.
You're nervous. Yeah.
We need to have a talk. She said, all of these patients I see, I hear the same thing over and over and over again. They all regret not traveling when they were younger. They wanted to wait till they were older because they would have the resources, the time and the money, but now they don't have the health. She said, if we really say we really want to travel, then let's make it a priority right now. And, the kids were young, and we were just, just living life, just right in the middle of everything. But we started making it a priority, and we started saving, and we started, budgeting just to be able to do these trips. And I remember one year, we were looking to see where we're going to take the family. My son had just gotten married, so it was going to be 6 of us, he and his wife, and then the other kids. And me and my wife. And we looked at going to Italy. It was going to be like $1,300 to $1,400 a ticket. So we're like, let's look and see where else we can go. Maybe Costa Rica, some other things. Then I got a notification from Hopper. We used to use that app a lot. And it said, hey, flights to Milan just dropped to $487. I was like, $480 to go to Italy? Yes, we're in. And within 30 minutes, we bought all the tickets and we were there for a couple of weeks.
Love that.
But we've actually had, there's been, like we took a trip to Paris, was only $500. Now we spend more than that because we don't want to sit and coach for a long flight. But there's, if you watch it, you can budget. So what's been neat with us is because we made that, we were very intentional about travel. We've seen that in our kids. My daughter and her husband, they've been married 3 years now. They've been to several times to Hawaii because they just look and see when the price drops. They'll go to Hawaii and they'll just work out there. They've been to Italy, Switzerland, Austria has been their favorite place they've ever been. And they've only been married 3 years, but they take these trips all the time and they budget, they use their miles.
That's legacy, right? That's legacy right there.
Yeah. And so I love that that's been something we've been able to pass on. But too often we live life thinking, well, one day. But I love what you said. No, we're going to plan it. It's going to be on the books. We're going to look forward to it.
Yeah, we booked the flights as soon as you could book flights. When we first had the idea to go to Italy, it was too far out. We booked the villa 18 months in advance. Nice. You know, it's like it made it real. I went to work. And by the way, that's a really cool exercise because you get super strategic about what you do and don't do. You learn how to really delegate versus take too much on your own. You learn how to allow people to grow up and build without you being the bottleneck. It was huge. And it was also just took me 2.5 weeks, but in 2.5 weeks, I started drinking some Aperol Spritz one night, got a little drunk, booked some tickets to Elton John in Italy. And all of a sudden I just calmed down. I just got into the lifestyle. I came home. It was like a renaissance. I came home, learned how to be a barista so I could make good coffee for my family. I, learned to fly fish because that slowed life down a little bit. I just created some hobbies, learned to shoot a bow, and I still was building a business. Before, it was like people like, what are your hobbies? I'm like, what do you mean? I have a business. Like I just didn't allow for time for anything else.
And you enjoy
that's a
it.
good way. And I enjoy it. And I still love working in my business, but I want to build a life that I don't want to retire from. So I want to take trips along the way, have parameters of what I do and what I don't do, and when I do things and when I don't do things. And so that I have time, like the computer doesn't leave this room unless it's on the kitchen counter when I want to watch a sunrise when I'm writing. It doesn't ever go to the bedroom. It doesn't go to the family room because those are the places, even in my cabin, we have a special place where work happens and then everything else is leisure and fun and hanging out. So I've just created those kind of structures so that the addiction to work doesn't overcome the ability to have peace.
Yeah, I do like that. I don't operate that way. And maybe I should, but we take a trip once a month.
It's what works for you, man. Like that's the thing. You get to decide. You get to determine it.
We take a trip. Yeah. At least once a month, we normally go somewhere. Now, it might be, we just bought a camper a couple of years ago.
Nice.
And so we'll go, her family, her sisters, she has a twin sister and an older sister and younger sister. Like they all have campers and they live a couple hours away, but we'll all meet up and go camping or something like that. We take our camper to F1 every year in Austin. We did that.
Nice.
Which I think you and I were texting some around that time. So we'll do trips like that. She's going on a girls trip with her sisters and mom. They're going on a cruise. And so me and my youngest son, we're into cars. We're going out to Tennessee and we're doing Tail of the Dragon. I don't know if you're familiar. It's outside of Knoxville. There's a road. It's kind of in between Tennessee and, or some of it's in Tennessee, some of it's in North Carolina. It's an 11-mile stretch of road, 318 curves. It is it's the number one road for car enthusiasts and motorcycle enthusiasts to go drive in the U.S. And we've been several times, but normally we'll fly out there and then we'll rent a BMW, just something nice to, drive for a few days. Well, this time, the issue with that, though, is my son's 19. He can't drive the rental cars. And so I have, a 1-ton truck, and then we could have a couple of nice sports cars and stuff. And she said, why don't you take one of the cars, tow it, like get a trailer and trailer it out there. That way, one, you can drive your car on the road, but also Brendan can drive. And I just looked at her and was like, I love you so much. Like, that is a fantastic idea. So as she's going to go doing this cruise with her family, me and my son, and then one of my best friends, he's going, and we're all going to do that. So, but it's like making those memories and doing these things. And
Benjamin Franklin said, wealth isn't the man that has it, but the man that lives it.
Oh, and so what a great quote.
Most finance, unfortunately, Billy, teaches people to lower their lifestyle, cut their expenses, delay their gratification, so that when they're too old to enjoy it, they finally enjoy it. My belief is you are your greatest asset. And when you invest in yourself, it's not just developing skills, it's protecting and preserving energy and growing that energy. It's improving your quality of life so that you show up the best version of who you are. And if most of finance says wealth is about how disciplined you are at not spending, then often we don't invest in experience. We don't invest in those moments. Yeah. And that someday never comes, because someday is never, right? That's unfortunately the way it is for too many people. So I know that we're, sharing stories of these experiences because people, if they could think about like, what experiences do you want to create? You could make them just part of like, hey, you dream it and then you speak it into existence. Like when my wife's like, let's do Italy for a summer. Okay, I didn't really know how. We figured it out. You go to work on it. You don't just get defeated by like, well, we don't have the money, we don't have the time, we don't have the ability. Those three things are lies. Like you can find all three of those things if you're committed.
And so often we say no, and we don't even know why we're saying no. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. It's one of the things I talk about with parenting is I was a sales manager. We sold precious metals. I did that for a long time. And our new guys, whenever we were training them, we'd realize as soon as they heard their first no, they were politely getting off the phone. And it's like, okay, no, we don't want you being rude, but there's a way to politely kind of overcome that, continue the conversation, and, just to get to a yes. A lot of times the first no, they're not even listening to you anyway, Right. Well, I realized that they were taught that by their parents. You're respectful. No means no, this kind of thing. And so my oldest son was 12 at the time. And I went home and I said, hey, I want to change things up a little bit. If you ask us for something that you want to do, something you want or whatever, and we say no, I'm giving you permission to respectfully make your case. I'm giving you permission to sell us on why you think it's a good idea and the benefits of us doing that. Now, granted, sometimes it's going to be a hard no, and you need to learn to hear that. Right. And obviously it worked. He's an extremely successful business owner now, like they're crushing life. But it was being able to just teach that too, Yeah. I kind of lost exactly where I was going with that.
Well, I do think that like the more successful someone is, the more they've been able to have a different relationship to the word no. They're willing to
that's what I was
to accept that rejection, not personally, but as a not now, or as a okay, well, what would a yes be? What would that look like? It's like you have to be willing to hear that word and be okay with it to continue to grow.
My youngest son plays drums, and he's phenomenal. And he was probably 15 or so at the time. And he's like, hey, Dad, do we have any clients in Chicago? I was like, actually, yeah. Like, we got several around the area. Why? Like, what's the question behind the question? And he's like, well, there's this drum convention coming up. And I just thought it'd be neat if we got to go to this drum convention. And then, we could go see the clients and, we could write the trip off. And, his 14, 15-year-old wisdom. And I said, okay, when is it? Let's book it. And he didn't believe me. He was like, seriously? I was like, yeah. Like, why not? But that's a good example. If it would have been so easy for me just to say no. But what did that yes mean to him?
Yeah.
We made a memory. It was a great time. Some really cool stuff happened on the trip, but too often I do think we say no just because it's easy. But you being able to tell your wife, okay, let's go to Italy. Let's do it. Somebody said
figure it
this to
out.
me. Yeah, this week I heard somebody say, we were just talking about regrets, and they said, you should never, ever have regrets. And I've never thought about it until they said it like that. Like, just don't have regrets. What is it you really want to do? Figure out a way to do it. Like, we have one shot, one shot. So we can sit here. I can tell right now that we can talk about this for a while, but I love what you do because you actually help not just chiropractors, but, help people say, okay, what do you have right now? How can we make sure we make this last as long as possible and are doing everything wise with it so you can go out and have these experiences?
Yeah, because most financial plans don't consider what we just talked about. They're just numbers in the future. And if it's devoid of like what someone really deems important, it's not really a plan. So, even if we found a bunch of money that someone overpaid in tax, it is, do you want some of that to go towards a bucket list? Do you want some of that to go towards another cash flow generating asset? Do you want that to go in the business? Is there a quality of life thing right now? Like I just find some people, if they find the money, maybe they'll do something for their health they wouldn't have done otherwise. And that's a huge payoff. But it has to be us uncovering that, not telling people what to do. And most of finance would say, Billy, just put that in a plan until you're 59 and a half. Just lock that away. Just set more aside. It's like the answer is always more. It's never more right now. It's always more eventually. And there's so many videos and so many books and so many things about the wealthy person that never spent any money. It's not wealth if you've never spent it. It's merely unrealized potential that went to someone else, possibly a bunch to the government, and possibly just to be blown by kids that didn't ever understand anything because they didn't have the experiences. They didn't have the conversations. They didn't go on the trips. They just watched the person work. And then one day they didn't realize they had a bunch of money because it was always socked away. That's the problem. Like wealth is a conversation. It's a commitment. Wealth is the ability to enjoy life along the way and be prepared for the future. And it's not either or. I think that too much advice out there is, hey, well, that trip, you could do it cheaper if you did it this way. Well, what if you don't want to do it the cheap way because it's not what you value, Right. And who's not to say that you could make more money because you feel better about who you are and the stories that you now get to tell and the people that you get to invest time with. It's just a different way to view money in the world.
Yeah, it's so good. A lot of there for a little bit, I kind of felt bad because we were taking these trips. And then I felt that I needed to justify them, kind of like I did a while ago. Well, yeah, we only spent $500 to go there. And now we do more because we realized 8-hour flight, I want to lay down, or
here's
whatever.
the thing, Billy. If you have lay down seats, the trip begins when you get on the plane. If you don't, it begins when you land. And even then it's probably not till you take the first nap. You know what I'm saying? So I like to extend the trip. That's my philosophy.
That's so true. We were going to Greece once and we were paying for the whole family. And I told my wife, I was like, hey, we need to upgrade our seats to first class or business class. And she's like, oh, that's just not fair. What do you mean it's not fair? And I remember asking our youngest son, I was like, hey, do you think anybody, your siblings, would be upset if, your mom and I were in first class? And he looked at me, he's like, they better not be.
When my son was 7 and I said, hey, you and your brother are going in the back, mom and I are going in the front on our first trip to Italy. He goes, hey, that's unfair. I'm like, it's unfair. You're on this flight in the first place, Lucky Sperm Club. I was like,
that's so good.
First class is to be earned. Coach is because you were born in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. And, but I love that my son was like, they better not be. And it made me feel good. One about his response. Cause that's what I thought too.
Didn't
and he
entitled.
didn't feel entitled. He was like, no, I think that's great. So what all do you do? Like if a chiropractor was to call and say, hey, I've seen you around. I've, heard you on the podcast. This is what we have going on. How could you help me? What would that day 1 and day 2 look like that you mentioned earlier?
Day 1 is we do discovery session and just ask them a lot of questions. I don't feel people feel seen and heard when it comes to their money. They don't get asked these questions often enough. So we find out what's important to them, what confidence they have around things, what they'd like to see fixed, where they don't have, clarity. And are they overpaying tax? Are they overpaying interest? Are they exposed with asset protection? We just go through from A to Z of their finances, and then we do a full report of findings where we draft up a comprehensive document and go through it with them on a call. And those are the first 2 sessions. If they hire us after that, we have the financial network and team to support implementation. If they've got good financial people, we love collaborating. So that's fine. We fill in the holes and the issues that aren't addressed. And more than anything, it's like a combination of money therapy meets mindset, meets cash flow, meets just getting fit so they know they have financial house in order, independent so they have cash flow from assets that release some of their burden, and free that they get to create from a place of abundance instead of scarcity.
Yeah, that's good. If people listening, if they wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
If they DM me on Instagram, Garrett B. Gunderson, and if they just put FHA, financial health assessment, in the DM, I'll hook them up. I'll give them a financial health assessment where they go through and they go, were they set? Were they not set? Was there financial blind spots? And they'll look at safety and security and money investing so they know precisely what to do. So FHA, or, I just think watching me on Instagram, because it's just daily doses of insights and, drops of little nuggets of financial, ability for them. And then my YouTube channel, I do a little bit longer videos like what we're doing here. So if they really want to dive into this world of how to heal their relationship with money, how to make more money, keep more money, grow their money, and grow themselves, then I think that, social media allows me to do that in a more dynamic way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I saw that you did an interview an interview with Myron Golden recently.
Yeah, I'm going to speak at his event next week. Just spoke at his event last week. We just really get along well and learn a lot from each other and become good friends.
He's great. Fantastic. Yeah, I was in his mastermind for a while, and
he's amazing. Yeah, love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, so a lot of the guys that were at his event last week I'm friends with. So very good. All right, Garrett, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to end the conversation with?
Look, there's a permanent penalty for not handling your finances. If you feel stress or fear or guilt or shame or even embarrassment, let's help you get through that, because then you can create these shared moments and memories with your family. And you think about Billy's legacy of his kids going out and traveling and going all over the place because of the way that they were raised and the things he was able to do. That's a living legacy. And that's what I want to do, is help people create 1 million lasting legacies before I die. That inspires me. Help them get their family constitution, which is your philosophies and ideals that are identified, that go inside of a trust, your family crest, so that you have a symbol for your family, not just the logo for your business, and ultimately traditions and rituals that reinforce investing in your heirs and having the experiences that Billy and I talked about here. So I know that it's all accessible and available within one generation. And it doesn't matter where you're starting or if you're in a little bit of a hole right now. It just comes down to this gift of love when you're intentional enough about it and have a little bit of good direction, and hopefully my books, my videos, and resources can help you get there, whether you ever work with me or not. I'm putting stuff out there all the time to help people.
Garrett Gunderson, thank you so much.